There really isn't much I want to see this week. There's Sex and the City 2, and there's The Losers. Okay, maybe. But I went and saw 2 other films this week, and one of them was Heartless. But before I get on to that, I need to say 2 things. 1, thank you for getting me to 300 subscribers. Greatly appreciated. Very thankful. Cool. Second thing, I also went and saw the new war drama Lebanon this week. Lebanon is the war drama set around the first days of the Lebanon War in 1986. So if you want to know about my views on that, go down there, because I know some people have been interested in the film and would maybe like to know what I think of it. So down there in the underbar is a little website where I've started up, and it has written reviews on it, so if you haven't looked at it yet, have a look. The video is meant for Heartless, so let's get on for the Heartless review. Heartless stars Jim Sturgis, Noel Clarke, Timothy Spall, and is directed by Philip Ridley. Philip Ridley hasn't made a film in 15 years, and this is a very much highly anticipated horror film for his fans. I haven't seen any Philip Ridley films, so I don't know much about it, but all I know is that this film is very personal, because the director can instantly relate with Jamie, because he did a lot of the things that are in this film, which is hard to believe, but if you watch the extras to this film, then it makes complete sense. So the film is to do with Jamie. Jamie is played by Jim Sturgis, and he's a young upcoming photographer. Here he is born with a rather deformed heart-shaped birthmark on his face. The film is set around the dangerous city of London, where gang violence has run wild with panic for civilians, and after the death of his father, Timothy Spall, Jamie then has to deal with the murder of his mother by the hands of hoodlums dressed as demons.
I don't know, it just don't make sense to me. It's like I open up the window and all this madness flies in.
Jamie then fulfills his mum's dreams for him to find true love, but for this to happen, he feels that he has to get rid of those birthmarks on his face. So he makes a deal with the anonymous Papa B, who will take away his birthmarks, but at a price. Every single time the full moon comes, and any time he asks, he must cut out the heart of a beating human being that is still alive. I know it's a bit sick, and believe me, those scenes watching him, hard to watch. But once his new love is in the firing line, he's going to try and stop all the hoodlums and all the gang violence and Papa B by any means necessary. Now, Heartless is a pretty good film. I did like it, but it's not perfect, and at times I did think this was going to be one of the best films of the year, but by the end of the film, it's got too many problems for me to just say, right, this is really the best horror film of this year. Let me get into the really, really good parts of this film. The performances are really great, especially from Jim Sturgis. He gives a more sympathetic performance than I actually thought he would, and even though this is a horror movie, it's much more complex than that, down to the fact of its visual style is very original. It adds to the mood and atmosphere of the film. The fact that you have flickering lights, all the sets look beautiful, it's all like that. But also the film has double meanings and is actually a lot more clever than some people may actually think this movie is. Watching the film, it has this really underlying message of contemporary violence, a movie which is set around what is very relevant to today, and I actually really appreciated that it's not just some other dumb horror, it actually has some sort of message to it. But the one thing I absolutely loved about Heartless is the one thing that is missing from not just horror movies, but a lot of movies, a lot of different genres, including, you know, rom-coms to thrillers. It's mystery. This film is really mysterious right the way through. It keeps you gripped. You never know where it's going to go. You never know what's going to happen. That's what I really like about the film. It's moody, grimy, and it's completely mysterious, and you never know what's going to happen. Also, the film does a good job at keeping me gripped and scared for the most part. The rather graphic scenes of where he rips out people's hearts, completely and utterly disgusting, and there are some really effective jump scares, even though, yes, they are kind of cheap jump scares, but they work. But that's where my sort of praise stops. They're really big positive outlooks, and the story is really original, and I love the mystery element to the film, but the film just suffers from being far too long, it would seem, dragged out, and a little bit more cliche than it probably should be. It's not a horror movie in, you know, a gist. It's kind of odd. It has a psychological element to it, and it also has a horror element to it. Those both mix, but the fact that this film is so original that it has to resort to so many cliches that it kind of bugged me by the end. And the film just feels long for some reason to me, and it's way too long and dragged out some scenes. So overall, Heartless is pretty good. At times, I thought I was watching one of the best films of the year, and definitely the best horror movie of the year. But tedium kind of sits in, and it's way too long and dragged out, and a little bit more cliched than it should be. But, for the most part, it's a psychologically tense thriller mixed in with a sort of fairy tale horror vibe. And if that doesn't sound like a good horror movie to horror fans, then I don't know what is. So I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good film, but just too flawed for me to say it's one of the best of the year. But until next time, I'll see you later.
Kill for me. Again.